Hi and welcome to this week's Insider Top Tip. Companies are continually under pressure to reduce their carbon footprint, but how do they achieve that? We're here today with Andrew Marris, the CEO of Decarbonate, to give you some advice.
Most businesses now recognise that being green is important to improve the image of their business. But more importantly, rather than paying lip service to sustainability, they now understand that it needs to be a core principle in their business, rather than being a separate silo, if you like, of responsibility where there's a sustainability department alongside the marketing or the financial or the product development or the manufacturing. Sustainability really needs to be seen as a horizontal silo that is incorporated in all of those individual areas. Carbon is probably one of the most important pillars of sustainability because it's a metric which is able to be measured, and obviously now with the emissions trading systems, it's something that is required to be audited and reported on as well. With other areas of sustainability like biodiversity, natural habitat, corporate social responsibility and so on and so forth, these other areas which can actually really make a bottom line impact on the profitability of the business, but they're not necessarily so important as carbon at the moment in terms of reporting. But nonetheless, they do have a very significant part to play in the profitability and the success of a business. And that's why it's important to have them as something which runs through the vein of the business, rather like a piece of rock. When you break it at any particular point, you see the core principles of sustainability in all those parts. The government is actually requiring businesses now to start looking at their emissions. It's made some very bold targets as to how the UK is going to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. And now lots of businesses in the voluntary sector as well as in the mandatory sector are now starting to look at ways by which they can actually play their part in reducing their emissions as well. And to understand where your impact is, the most fundamental thing you can do is to conduct your carbon footprint. So you need to measure to understand where your impacts are. And once you understand where your impacts are, then you need to start to look at ways of reducing those. Short-term quick wins, medium-term small investment, and long-term where investment and change of practice may be required, such that you can actually make some really substantial long-term savings. Once you've made or put in place this reduction strategy, then obviously you can have unavoidable emissions which you need to look at offsetting. And once you've done all this, of course, it's important that the business then reports on all its achievements to help, in fact, raise the profile of the business in this respect.
And there you have it. Andrew Marris gave us his top tips on how to reduce your carbon footprint. Join us again next week for Insider Top Tip.